Some people say RTS gamers are a dying breed, but here at GameWise, we're here to prove that RTS is far from dead. It's still as great as ever. Whether you're building armies, managing resources, or outsmarting your enemies in real time, the RTS genre has something for everyone. Let's get into it. Let's kick things off with the flagship RTS game right now, which is of course StarCraft II. The campaign is solid, but the real draw here is the competitive multiplayer. The balance between the three factions, Terran, Zerg, and Protoss, is as tight as ever. But let's be real, if you want to climb the ladder in StarCraft II, you're going to need a lot of practice. The game can be brutally competitive, and for casual players, it can feel like you're always a step behind. That being said, if you're into RTS games with an emphasis on tactical combat, StarCraft II is still king. The level of precision, micro, and strategy involved is second to none. Plus, the game's esports scene is legendary, and watching high-level play is like witnessing an art form. It's the RTS game for the competitive gamer, no doubt about it. Age of Empires 4 is a welcome return to form for the Age of Empires franchise. It brings back everything we loved about the classics, the massive battles, civilization building, and the historical settings, while also introducing some fresh mechanics. What really sets it apart is its strong focus on historical accuracy, and the way it captures the essence of different time periods. The campaign is rich with story-driven missions, and the multiplayer is both accessible and competitive. The variety of civilization adds replay value, giving you the chance to experiment with different playstyles and strategies. The game isn't without some criticism, but for fans of the genre, Age of Empires 4 is a great time, especially if you enjoyed the older titles. Company of Heroes 2 is one of the most intense and immersive RTS games I've ever played, and the Eastern Front setting really adds to the emotional weight of the story. The game's combat is fast-paced and brutal, and its focus on tactical positioning and cover makes every engagement feel meaningful. What I particularly appreciate is how Company of Heroes 2 handles its resource management and base building, forcing you to make quick decisions under pressure. The battles are strategic, the story is grim, as expected with a World War II setting, and the multiplayer is still going on, even after all these years. SpellForce 3 offers a unique hybrid between RTS and RPG elements, giving you the chance to control individual heroes alongside armies of units. It's a game that doesn't just focus on resource management and combat, it also emphasizes exploration, character development, and story. The world building here is top-notch, and the fantasy setting really shines. The ability to level up heroes, customize their abilities, and even engage in side quests within the RTS framework is a cool take on the genre. But the game's learning curve is steep, and if you're not careful, the complexity can overwhelm you. It also doesn't do a great job of easing new players into the mechanics, so you may find yourself frustrated at first. However, if you're a fan of both RPGs and RTS games, SpellForce 3 does a solid job of blending both. Just be ready to put in some time to really get the most out of it. Alright, Dune Spice Wars isn't your typical survival game. It's more strategy than scrambling for scraps, but it still makes you fight tooth and nail to survive on the unforgiving desert planet of Arrakis. If the blistering heat doesn't get you, the massive sandworms lurking beneath the dunes just might. This game throws you into the world of Dune, where controlling spice, the universe's most valuable resource, is the key to survival and domination. You'll pick one of the several factions, each with its own strengths, and try to outsmart your enemies through political maneuvering, economic control, and of course, outright warfare. It's a balancing act with this one. Expand too fast, and you'll attract unwanted attention from rival factions, or those giant worms. Expand too slow, and you'll fall behind in the ruthless race for spice supremacy. Shout out to the Dune fans out there. Supreme Commander is the game that really made me appreciate scale in RTS games. The sheer size of the battles in this game is staggering. You're not just controlling a few units, you're commanding armies that span entire maps. And the unit micromanagement is a whole different beast. The ability to zoom in and out at will, seeing everything from a tactical viewpoint to a grand top-down perspective, gives Supreme Commander its unique identity. If you thrive in chaos and big-picture strategies, this one is one of the best RTS games to play.
Your efforts have landed us here, my faithful friend.
The Command & Conquer collection is a trip down memory lane, with both Command & Conquer and Red Alert getting a much-needed facelift. These games were pioneers of the first RTS genre, and they still hold up today. The remaster brings high-definition graphics, and it keeps the core gameplay intact. The appeal of Command & Conquer has always been its fast-paced action. The remastered collection doesn't slow things down at all. If you're a fan of classic RTS games like I am, this collection is a solid way to relive the past. The only downside is that the remaster doesn't do enough to address the more archaic parts of the game, so some of the gameplay can feel a bit dated. Still, it's a ton of fun reliving some of those old missions from back in the day. The Total War Warhammer Trilogy is one of the most ambitious and visually stunning RTS series out there. The combination of turn-based strategy and real-time tactical battles make it a unique experience, and the Warhammer universe adds a ton of flavor. If you're into fantasy, this is the series for you. The battles are epic, the armies are diverse, and the lore is rich with depth. Now don't get me wrong, this isn't your traditional RTS game, being more of a grand strategy game overall. The RTS mechanics are undeniable. The complexity can sometimes make it hard to grasp for new players, and there are plenty of times when the strategy feels overwhelming. But for those who love the Warhammer universe and can handle a bit of complexity, this is a must-play. The sheer scale of the battles alone is worth the price of admission.
Invasions, massacres, sieges.
Age of Empires II is one of the all-time classics of the RTS genre, and the definitive edition makes it even better. With updated graphics, new civilizations, and an expanded campaign, this is the definitive version of the game. The core gameplay remains just as good as it was in 1999. Gather resources, build up your economy, and wage war with a variety of units and strategies. The definitive edition also offers a ton of fan-requested features, including quality of life improvements and new content that keeps the game fresh. What else is there to say about Age of Empires 2? It's an absolute must-own for any RTS fan.
Till we return this city to Athena!
Command & Conquer Generals is one of the greatest C&C games of all time, and the zero-hour expansions bring new factions, new units, and more strategic depth to the game. What sets Zero Hour apart is its fast-paced gameplay and emphasis on unit management. The factions are varied, with each offering its own playstyle, and the maps are designed for quick tactical engagement. The thing that makes this one of the best games of all time, in my opinion, is compact, competitive gameplay. There's nothing quite like out-micromanaging your opponent, with Humvees filled with rocket troopers, or infiltrating your opponent's base and sabotaging their plans. The game still has a small online community duking it out to this day. Definitely one for the old-school RTS fans.
As a united fleet.
Alright, here's where I get a bit critical. Homeworld 3 looks gorgeous, but if we're being honest, the story is a bit of a mess. The developers really should have focused more on crafting a compelling narrative, instead of leaning on nostalgia. That said, the RTS mechanics in Homeworld 3 are solid. The space combat is great, the ship management system is excellent, and the visuals are breathtaking. If you're just here for the strategy, you won't be disappointed. But if you're hoping for a story that holds up to the legacy of the Homeworld series, you might be let down. It's just not as engaging as it should be, and the plot feels more like a missed opportunity than anything else. That said, if you're a fan of RTS space battles, it's still worth checking out for the gameplay alone.
Leverage all your experience to achieve victory.
Northgard is a fantastic blend of RTS and survival mechanics, wrapped up in Norse mythology-inspired packages. The game places you in control of a Viking clan as you explore, settle, and survive in a harsh, unforgiving land. It's a game that challenges you to think strategically about resource management, combat, and expansion. But it also forces you to keep an eye on your environment, especially the weather. The seasons change, and when winter comes, it hits hard. It's also a pretty refreshing take on the genre, with no base building rush or super complex mechanics. The game lets you focus more on exploration and survival, rather than just unit spam or micromanagement. While it's not as intense as some of the classics in the genre, Northgard shines in its simplicity and atmosphere. Plus, the art style is gorgeous, Who doesn't want to see their Viking clan building their stronghold next to towering mountains and frozen lakes?
You refused to accept what you became the moment you bent hyperspace to your will.
And there you have it, 12 RTS games worth checking out right now. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe. And check out our next video, the 15 best RPG games you can play right now. See you in the next one.